All right. It's 8:05. I think we can start. Okay. We have everyone in the chat or in the okay. All right. Okay. So, good evening, everyone. I hope you're all having a good evening so far. It's 8 p.m. here in the Philippines. Vienna is 9 p.m., right? But yeah, I hope you're having an energetic night, and I hope you're all excited to have a night of learning with the product PH community. So I'd like to welcome everyone again to the monthly event that we have in product PH called community talks. So in these sessions, we get some time to learn from product PA or product managers and experts who are in the field of product, and we listen to them listen to their insights and share that they share with the community, and also take some time to connect with other fellow product people. That being said, we have a couple of speakers who are experts in what they do, and they'll be sharing their hard-earned experience with us through quick talks. All right. So before we get into the speakers, I'd first like to warm things up by having the audience introduce themselves into the chat here. So I hope everyone's listening. So I hope you can share these following details with everyone in the room. So please introduce yourself. So give us your name, your role, and the company that you're working for, and your social media network profiles if you're interested in sharing that. So I'll start things off. I'm Abel. I'm a product designer and workshop facilitator from 10 and 11, which is a my own practice of um, or design consultancy. So maybe we can ask from some people in the audience as well. Maybe Gracel, you can share a little bit about you.
Oh, okay. So, yeah, hello everyone. Good evening. I'm Gracel. You can call me Gra. I'm a Scrum Master here in the Philippines. I work with NPACs. So, yeah, I mean, it's kind of weird that there's a Scrum Master in a product page product meetup. But yeah, nice to see you all. Hope we learn from each other.
All right. Where can they find you, by the way?
Oh yeah, you can find my just find my name on any social media uh app, LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter, meetup.com. Yeah. I'm pretty sure I'm the only one who has this name.
And what's your motivation for joining us today?
Yeah, I'm one of the organizers, so yeah, that's why. No, yeah. I think one of the motivation why I'm joining product page in general is to learn more about the product so that I can serve and help my teams out by connecting the work we do and why are we doing it with the product. So, yep.
All right. Anyone else who wants to share? Maybe Rad Butalid. I've been seeing you in the sessions quite often, so maybe you can and finally introduce yourself.
Yeah, sure. Hey everyone, I'm Brad. So Grasel actually keeps on uh, tagging me into these groups. That's why I'm here in support of product management in the Philippines. So I'm a senior AI engineer for IBM. What else? Motivation for joining today. So I did project management, product management, portfolio management, everything else in between in a previous life. So I find it interesting. Thanks, everyone.
Awesome. Yep. Thanks, Rad. We hope to keep seeing you in our community talks moving forward, and we're happy to have you here. All right. So I think we can move on. So just just to share everyone or remind everyone that we're active on social media. So please join the discussions and join the groups. You can find us on Facebook. So just look for Product PH, the group, or you can find us on Twitter as well at productph_org. And you can also follow the Product PH community and LinkedIn. So Product PH as well. So you can see the URLs here on the screen. All right. So feel free to drop in your details as well, and maybe people will connect with you, and you can find important connections within the network, right, or within the community. So, all right. Now I'll discuss the agenda of what we're doing tonight. So we're trying sort of a quite a different format from previous sessions. So tonight, instead of the lean coffee, we're doing a panel discussion. So first, we'll start things with the lightning talks as usual, and as we discussed earlier. So we have two speakers who will share their experience and their valuable insight about agile for product management. And then after that, we'll have a panel discussion where they'll answer your questions that you'll be dropping into the Slido. So that said, please scan this QR code or go into sly.do and just write down the code here. You can see on the screen, and you can drop in your questions. So please drop in your questions or vote the ones that you like to be answered within the panel discussion. So yeah, don't forget to drop in your questions there. And so you could join in and you can have your burning questions answered. All right. That said, I think we can jump straight into the lightning talk. So for our first speaker, we have Richard Brillantes, who's an agile consultant at Palo IT. So Richard, please take the floor. The stage is yours. And
all right. Thank you. Can I share screen?
Yep, definitely.
Okay, can you see my screen?
Yes.
Yeah. Right. So good evening, everyone. With regards to the topic of Agile for Product Management, I wanted to take this opportunity to introduce a concept of using evidence-based management as product managers or product owners, and see how it would help you take your product to the next level in terms of being able to pivot, being able to focus the efforts of work, and getting you closer to your goals. So we'll skip the introduction part. I'll leave my contact information in the Miro board, and we can look more about that later on. But right now, what I want you to take a look at is to understand what evidence-based management is. What are the things that you would need to understand as part of its process? What are the tools and areas of improvement that it can focus on? And some of the things that you could start looking at applying into your practice as well. So evidence-based management is a framework to help measure the value and enable improvement and agility in a product or in an organization. So in the context of our conversations today, it's really measuring, diagnosing, and improving the value of the product using an iterative and incremental approach and guide that change. And so some of that information would center on what would be value for the organization. And that would really depend on who does your product serve, how is it consumed, how is it used, how do you transact with it, what are the things that are the key points that are being the differentiators of your product in the market against other products that may be serving the same market as well. And for that, you want to be able to ensure that the measures that you are applying into your product or to your organization is actually delivering the right results, which is improving the outcomes that you're having for your product, reducing the risks of delivering the wrong thing to the market at the wrong time, for example, and optimize the investments. Are you choosing the right things to be building for the right people and for the right reasons? And you can learn more about it in the link over here on the frame. So when it comes to measurements, what I've seen in the organizations is that it's a whole lot focused on the team, very team-centric, measuring team outputs. And what happens as a result is it becomes a factory of work that might be disconnected from each other, does not make sense from a overall product perspective. It's causing people to focus on their own deliverables instead of working as a team, and is unable to deliver a result that is valuable to your customer. And so as leaders for your product, as managers of your product, we must understand that measurement is strategic in nature. It has to be able to address the strategic needs of your product or your organization. And therefore, we have to ensure that the focus of these measurements are something that is affecting the right things and move us away from things that can easily be gamed by ourselves, by the organization, and not deliver the right outcomes that we need. So I'm reminded of this quote by Eli Goldratt of telling me how I am measured, and I will tell you how I behave. Tell me that's also how I will be rewarded, and that's all I will focus on. And for me, this is relating back to key measures of progress, key measures of motivations that people may be focusing on too much, and as a result would deliver outcomes for themselves more than it is for the product itself. So why do evidence-based management? So given the errors of our ways in the past, what Scrum.org has done is to be able to formulate this framework in order to actually apply these things to limit your risk, improve our delivery of value to our customers, and improve the welfare of the people as a result. And get product people to actually orient themselves towards how a product is funded and invested and returns money into the to the product and to the organization, and have that better cycle of money and funding, and get that product out the door, and be able to respond to market demands or to market changes with all the information that it needs. So with that, we also need to be able to understand the benefits of it, the benefits of understanding when are we deciding to change, when are we deciding to choose between feature A or feature B, when do we know that the customer actually is satisfied with the work that we are doing with the product, and be able to become a learning organization as a result, because we're making decisions based on evidence, because we have that feedback loop of we try something out, give it to the customer, and we know instantly if they like it or not. So the things about how we can apply evidence-based management is through what they call the empirical approach. And at a high level, it's basically understanding the current conditions of your product or your organization, creating and setting your performance goals, and then creating small experiments to go from a dream state to the current state to a target state, and then run an experiment to make that improvement quickly, measure that effect, and then understand how well did you do with that experiment, and then adjust accordingly and adjust your goals and next steps. So a lot of this is working on the assumption that you are on a complex adaptive product environment, that there is more unknowns than knowns, that you need to be able to address market demands quickly, and you need to formulate a plan in order to do that and understand if the plan worked or not. So another way to visualize it is this experiment loop, that you create the hypothesis of what would make a significant difference in your product. You experiment and measure. You check if the measures were affected by the changes you've made, and then adapt those plans and ideas afterwards. A whole lot of this is available also for free online if you know where to look about evidence-based management, and is able to explain this a whole lot better in a little bit more time than what we have right now. So when we talk about that experiment loop, and we were talking about how to measure things, there are things that are applicable for evidence-based management that are called key value areas. And those key value areas are the following: current value, unrealized value, time to market, and ability to innovate. And we'll go through these four things as quickly as we can. So first off is current value. So current value, we are able to reveal the value of the product and how much of that value is delivered to our customers today. And a lot of it is to help maximize the value that the organization delivers to our customers currently, today, at the present time. It only considers what you have right now, and not what exists in the future. And you can check these things on how your customers are doing today, how happy are your employees, how happy are your stakeholders, and how might the product even compare in the market today. And these are things that would be able to help use as a reference point in order to measure. Next is unrealized value. So for unrealized value, this suggests the potential value that could be realized if the organization could perfectly meet the needs of all potential customers. So this is something that you would need to determine in order to say that this would improve or uplift the value of the product if we created this. And this could be checked over time. And you could also use this to be able to compare, if you have two different features that you want to create, how much value does feature A potentially create, and how much does feature B potentially create? And these might be small bets, small guesses, or informed by our understanding of how it would affect a potential percentage of your customers in the market. It can also identify what risks or effort it would be able to be working on and address for the product. And it can also help us understand how much more investment should we make on a potential feature, or even if we need to compare two different products. So that's what unrealized value is for. Next is ability to innovate. And we'll try to keep this light, because for ability to innovate and time to market, this is more on an organizational capability to deliver and less about the product. But it's also useful to understand, so that when you have your conversations with your development team members, with your agile leaders, with the organization, that you understand what their challenges are in being able to deliver. So ability to innovate is for the organization's capability of delivering new capabilities that might better meet customer needs. So if you have a product that has a new feature, how well can you deliver that feature? How innovative does the organizational capability have to be in order to deliver that? So this some of the questions you could think about is that what are the things that prevent the organization from delivering new value, and what prevents customers or users from benefiting from that innovation? So it has a direct correlation to the other key value areas that we've mentioned before. And then lastly, time to market. Time to market talks about expressing the organization's ability to quickly deliver new capabilities, products, or services. So this one is to see how long does it take for an organization to deliver value. So when we're talking about the organization as a whole or as a product, we have an idea. The current value of the product is X amount. The unrealized value of a feature for that product is X plus 1, for example. So it's one more than the current value. But in order to deliver that one more point of value, it'll take you 3 months, 6 months, 9 months. So this would also help you understand the life cycle of product changes over time and be able to look at return of investment. How much time does it take to actually capture that much value? So trying to understand how fast can the organization learn from new experiments? How do you learn from new information and adapt your decisions from a product or an organizational level? Or how fast can you deliver new value to customers is the questions that time to market tries to answer. So with EBM and key value areas, this is just a flavor of some of the key value metrics or measurements that each of these quadrants might want to take a look at in order to be valuable to a product or to an organization. Now, initially, I have an item here that we could discuss. Maybe we can spend 2 to 3 minutes discussing these things. I would like to ask for the people in the group to maybe put in the chat or unmute yourself to suggest an item that you would like to talk for us about today. So first, I think we'll just focus on current value and unrealized value, but we'll start with current value. Does anyone have any questions on some of these metrics?
Maybe we can look at NPS score. Sure.
All right. So NPS score. Who knows about NPS score? So NPS score is the Net Promoter Score. It's a survey that is being provided by some organizations for their products on the customer's experience on the product. There's a set of questions that you can provide that once answered provides a cumulative score for a product or organization. And that you could release that like a day or so after a release or a few months after release in order to gauge or even as the customer applies the feature or uses the feature, that gives you some data on how well has the feature solved the customer's problem, potentially. Okay, so how about for unrealized value? Does anyone want to ask about any of these metrics?
Did we do the customer satisfaction gap?
Okay, so customer satisfaction gap. So this could be related to current value. So if you have a customer satisfaction score that you have indicated or already available, and you have a set of features where they are supposed to be solving a customer satisfaction problem, then you could tie a relative score among these things. And based on that relative scoring, then that gives you a prioritization, a way to justify doing something first because it actually addresses the gap by so much. And by doing that, then you can now have a bit of focus on which one should you do next if you were to address the customer satisfaction gap. Okay, thanks guys for asking, for selecting these things. If you guys have any questions, we'll talk about that in the Slido. So moving on, do we want to talk about the key value metrics for ability to innovate and time to market? From your
Yes.
perspective as a Scrum Master? Yeah? Okay. So there are several metrics that you could use for ability to innovate. Does any of these look interesting to you? If they do, just shout it out. Oh, I have 1 minute left. Okay, so I have to get going then. All right. So based on these metrics, there are ways that you could apply and improve your practices in EBM by using several methods, such as the improvement kata, the EBM canvas, the product strategy canvas, the hypothesis template, or even the this Google Doc called the EBM dashboard. By introducing some data in here, by selecting the items that you want to be talking about, then they would be able to bring it to your next review and talk to your stakeholders and say, this is how far we've come from the product. You have a baseline, you have a goal, this is where we are now. And introduce that conversation of what are the things that are able to bring us to the next step, to the next target condition of that journey, that next capability of the product. There are other practical ways that you can integrate it as well. There are some product metrics or product feature capabilities that you could apply, and other things that you would be able to do in on top of these practices that you could do. And I would be very interested to learn from other people here on some of the insights that they've gathered from this short talk. Lastly, if you're able to practice this, please use the what you call this? Something that's similar is the improvement kata. I'm identifying an ambitious goal for the product, identify your starting point, plot your target state, apply small experiments, and then change the way you work in that product and see and track that progress and see that progress over time. And rally the team towards a common goal and work with your stakeholders to co-create those goals and the trajectory that you guys want to achieve. So I think we've run out of time already. Thank you very much for your time, and I'll talk to you guys soon. Thank you.
Thanks for the wonderful talk, Richard. I think EBM essentially endorse or promotes an experimental mindset, right? And measuring progress based on actual created value, which makes Agile strategic rather than just going fast and checking stakeholders' checklists. So yeah,
That's right.
it's very interesting. And yeah. So
Yeah. So if you
go ahead.
I'm gonna share the link to the Miro board in case you guys want to check that out as well, and then you can get my details on some of the frames as well if you want.
All right. Thanks, Richard.
I think there's a community as well for EBM PH.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, there's evidence-based management PH. If anyone wants to learn more about the topic in a Philippine setting, it's more of a conversations on their journey as well.
Awesome. So maybe some of the audience could join that. All right. Thanks again. So just a reminder, everyone, you can drop in your questions for Richard and any other questions that you'd like to ask our speakers on the slide though. So the link is in the chat. If you could back read, or our chat facilitator will comment that down again in a bit. All right. So thanks, Richard. And now we're moving on to our next speaker, which is Rodemir Reyes. Rodemir is a senior product manager from Manabi. Rodemir, please take the floor.
Yep. Hello. Thank you. Yeah. Uh, thank you very much, Richard, for that very insightful presentation. Yeah. So, so oh, let me share my screen. Yep. Okay. So, yeah. Hello, everyone. Hi, I'm Rodney Reyes. I'd like to share with you my product management journey with Agile. Yeah, a little bit of background. Yeah, I'm Rodney Reyes. You can call me Amir. I'm a husband and a father to our wonderful daughter. And yep, I'm a product manager for mostly around 8 years already. And previously, I was in software engineering. So I'm from tech, and my interest is basically having family time, cooking, badminton, basketball, basically any sport, also music, photography, and tech. Here's my LinkedIn. And a disclaimer, to be honest, I saw what Richard is planning to present and share, and I would like to keep this light. So I'm not here to teach Agile or Scrum. I'm just here to share my experience and my. I'll keep it light, and so basically, no trash talking of project management or any controlling managers or any entitled partners or even unmotivated team members. So I'm focusing more on what I've learned and why I was able um, to have agile as a buddy in my product management journey. So, so what got me into product management and agile? So let me go back to my background. Um, I came from a family that loves food, and we were able to launch some uh, small town restaurants, and for my sisters, we were able to have pizza, like bread, cookies, and chicken stores, and also for the younger brothers and myself, we were the food tasters. We were the QA, and also as for my uh, brother as well, he became a chef. So basically, that's our passion. That's what uh, we wanted to have a business for food, and we want to give a service wherein we can have people have the experience of what we basically have every day. And um, so so we're already business oriented. And as for myself, during in high school, I went into seminary. So just I don't know if you're familiar. When you come into seminary, it's not really an equivalent to all boys school. No. Well, yes, we're all boys, but we are removed from the comforts of our home. So we only go home maybe once a month. So we stay 24 hours in schools, learning, and basically, yeah, good. We're scholars of the archdiocese, but everything is limited. Um, the food, even the entertainment, so no TV, and well, basically we were bored, but that comes also in as a blessing, wherein if you're bored, you're forced to be creative. So we are forced to learn things, a lot of things, and also as part of the system, each of us have responsibility, like also helping in cleaning the place, also in uh, the structure of the education, uh, and basically helping out in the system. So if you look into it, um, we're a small group. Basically, we were 10 in the whole year of the batch, 50 in all of the high school. So we're a small group. We are self-organized. Sounds familiar, right? So it's basically it's a scrum team. And uh, I lived there for 4 years, and when I graduated, yeah, it's time to go to college, and yeah, I went to the LSU, and that's where my IT studies, yeah, animal aside, yeah, yeah. So I took BS computer science, specialized software technology. So just to uh, shortcut it a bit, so I learned, graduated, and then started working in IT. It's usual, typical. You're young developer and just learning the ropes, and of course, problems there, just changing specs, and you know, uh, also limited time. So that was basically my first 10 years. Initially, I was an antivirus engineer, so I don't like it. So because I'm into software development, and basically, I shifted, and yeah, when I started software engineering, it's really easy to be a solid contributor. Uh, when you're a senior, you're trying to lead or inspire other people, teams, managing people as well. And architect, you're dealing with uh, different partners, clients, and that's the exciting part, right? It's more of the product management. Basically, it's really not that easy. If it's easy because if you're all alone and you're delivering, that's all right. That's fine. But of course, you're part of the system, and you, maybe the teams as well, and you're the ones uh, needing to deliver to a certain market or even to a client, right? So that's basically where I learned that okay, there should be something better to make this more harmonious system, right? So basically, what I learned, right? Um, I learned it's all about time. So sometimes there's so many things that this cost money, like how many sprints, right? Basically, it's about time, it's about the cost, but you have to learn what are the values are you focusing on or sacrificing with your 8 hour per day. With that, you have to know your values. So in Scrum, uh, yep, they have these values. Oh, okay, 5 minutes left. Yeah, just maybe what's important here is also having the respect for yourself. You have to respect yourself, and you have to love yourself. Uh, why is that important? Because you're part of the team, and then when you're also in that team, like what what is very popular, what we're doing now is yeah, story points, measuring. Sometimes if we are not the if the ones who deliver are not is not the ones who will estimate, it's kind of problematic. Yeah. So also one thing that I need to to learn is you have to learn what motivates your team. So outside of what is, of course, money is important, the salaries, but also you have to give them the purpose, some mastery as well, and autonomy. And with that, uh, the Scrum has already given this as a built-in, like with the purpose we have that, there are sprint goals or even product goals, right? Mastery is that we are allowed to learn from our mistakes, maybe, or even to improve ourselves. And autonomy is actually a big part wherein once you give teams their problems, then there you have their responsibility to fix it. Yeah. Okay. So let me just shortcut a bit on the ones that I really like to talk about is, yeah, right now, for the one thing that I'm actually still experiencing is, you don't need to fall in love with your solution. Sometimes you know that this works, but you have to look into other factors as well, that um, they have their own inputs and you have to consider them. So it doesn't mean that and this is your plan. It doesn't always come into fruition. Yeah. Okay. Um, I think some other points that I want to share is for our organizations. Basically, you need to focus. So uh, when you're looking into so many partners, so many clients, and you're considering so many users, you need to focus on what's you believe that is important. Really, what's the main important thing, and and one final thing is, sometimes the shortest line is not a straight line. It's actually a short line, a shorter line. So if we can directly collaborate uh, with your partners instead of partner success, it's a better experience, and you can get the fresh idea out of them rather than maybe uh, maybe the inputs that you get would be sort of not clear. Yeah. Okay. I guess I'll leave it like that. I really wanted to discuss a lot of things, but um, yeah. Uh, let's continue with the program. Yeah.
All right.
Okay.
Okay. Are you done? All right. Thanks for the light-hearted talk, Rodemir, and I loved what you shared about your journey. The learnings are very important. More than the techniques, there's the human element in our work, definitely, because we're all humans. But yeah, so don't forget, for our audience, don't forget to drop in some of your questions onto the Slido. Maybe you have some remaining questions for Rodemir. Probably he can answer them. So let me just continue with the program. So that concludes our lightning talks. So we've had two great speakers who shared their experience and some lessons about product management. And now we'll move on to the panel discussion. So, for the panel discussion, we have selected 3 to 5 questions. I think five, we have five probably, that will be answered by our two speakers. So, these are coming from the Slido. These are questions that you've voted or dropped into the Slido. So also we want this to be an engaged session. So we're welcoming you or inviting you to drop in your insights as well into the chat, and I'll read through them. Or if you're interested to talk and you want to come on stage, on the figurative stage, just raise your hand and I'll give you the figurative mic. And that said, if we don't finish the questions for tonight in this panel discussion session, we'll continue the we'll continue answering them in the FB group, Facebook group of Product PH. So don't forget to join that Facebook group in case you want to see your questions answered, or you can follow up with some more questions. All right. That said, we'll go into the panel discussion questions. So, how this will go, I'll just basically read the question and then I'll invite our speakers to answer them. And then if anyone wants to add something on the chat, drop it in the chat or raise your hand. All right. So, first question is, how do you build a culture of experimentation in the organization? I think this is very interesting. I'd love to hear from Richard first. And then,
Yeah. Okay. Uh, I would like to get some more context on the product or the probably the technical organization that you're with, and if your supervisor had been working in products in the past.
who's the author of the question?
Yeah.
Maybe they
Would
can
the author of the question?
please stand up. Let's give them 3 seconds. 1, 2. They're not responding. So maybe you can
So
assume some things,
yeah,
Richard.
we can assume a few things,
Yeah.
but definitely building a culture of experimentation has to solve a particular problem. And that problem might be that the things that we are doing to solve the problem needs to be better, needs to improve to a degree. And for me, that has to be met with evidence that we did this, that we had this problem that we had, we created the solution, this is the effect. And from there, have a honest conversation on what can we do differently in order to make it safer for us and better for us to introduce changes to our customers that is safe to fail, that we can roll back, that we can understand how they behave and fine tune the changes that we're making, that we're not so like what Rodemir said, not get married with the solution, not get too married with the approach or the process that we have right now, especially if it is not getting us the outcomes that we want. And going from there, having that agreement might be able to start with a small change that you have done or that you want to do and introduce that to your product and complete that loop, basically. So what one thing that you could do is to just try it at a really, really small scale. So apply some of these practices, identify a measurable thing that you want to do, a feature that would benefit from understanding how the customer behaves or how it affects the overall product's current value or an increase in its current value, and then share that with management and frame it as an experiment that we have tried to do this to solve a problem. This is the result, and these are now the options that we have. And your supervisor can also contribute to those assumptions and just log all these assumptions and see that how these assumptions have played out over time. Whether they're right or not is less important. What's important is that we're learning as an organization, as a group of people wanting to serve our customers. So you don't have to put their name in the assumption that, oh, my boss assumed that this is valid. No, you just say these are the assumptions that we're making based on these changes, and we're measuring against these things, and based on that, this is what we're seeing, and then go from there.
All right. Thanks for that. Very practical. But if I could follow up, how do you sell an experiment or a culture of experimentation to a stakeholder who's resistant? Say they would rather just play on their bets, right? Which is something that
So
happen. Yeah.
So a bet is still an experiment. A
Mm.
bet could still be an experiment, and you could use the hypothesis template and frame their bets in that regard in order to do that. There's also this matrix of how much am I willing to bet of company money, and then how much am I willing to bet of my own money, and then see where it is. And that's your prioritization as well of the bets,
Mm.
right? Because then it becomes a whole lot more uh, tangible for them.
Yeah.
That how much are you willing to put down money on? And it might become a political conversation. I think very well might be,
Recording
but
in
because
progress.
you have to be what you call this? Uh, you are investing money on the thing, and you have to be able to measure that later on. Then at least you have some starting point that we got the return on investment and then some. Versus we did this, it didn't get us money. Okay, now what do we do next?
Mm.
Right, and we could look at it from a budget perspective as well. That your the budget that you guys can spend on improving the product is limited. So we want to be smart about spending that money.
Mm.
You could give that to the stakeholders and say, hey, okay, how do you want to spend this money? And then come back with a prioritized list of features. And now you can now check that back. Did that make us money back?
Yeah. All right. Okay, Rodimir, do you want to add some things?
Um, Richard has a very good answer already, but just to share a little bit, actually, I had an opportunity before. What we did was we did lean UX. So basically, we did prototyping and showing those prototype and actually building them and actually showing our partners those what we've accomplished. And when they like it, basically, yeah, we continue. And we uh, when we show something that's not working for them, so basically we remove it and or improve on it. So how do you build be transparent, show it like for example, who are your targets? If you have clients or partners, show them what you're really if you're doing good progress, and get feedback. Yeah, basically that's it. That's what I can share.
Right. Thanks, Rodimir. I think both of you are talking about the same point of documenting the experiments well, right? I think there's some element of that, what you both are saying. So also, I think Iman Santa Maria also said you can leverage other product manager tools like value stream maps or journey maps to visualize or showcase the pain points you're trying to solve with your experiment, and also better articulate the value you deliver. So yeah, if anyone wants to chime in as well, I think Grassel.
Yeah, I could chime in. So I think the difference with the scenario that you mentioned, Abel, is if there's a stubborn, you have a stubborn stakeholder. I would say the difference of what you're currently making to an like a full blown experiment is like the feedback loop and uh what do you do after the fact that you get this result. So the experiment is there. Kasi you have, hey, this is what you want to achieve. This is how we do it, right? This is the result that we get. So I think the missing part there is, okay, what's next? So that
Yep.
I think that's the only trick. The trickier part is, okay, this is the data. Then what do we do about it? So that's the. It's not. I'm not saying that the whole experiment is not there, but maybe a part of it, maybe the tail end of it, is not yet being applied. So I think you can start from there and okay, this is like the element of the experiment, and then oh, this is what we're missing. So, but I'm not sure if like any company doesn't do any kind of or form of experiments. You just have to articulate it. You have to find it. You have to like arrange it in a way that okay, this makes sense as an experiment. So that's my take on a more practical sense, I would say.
Right. Thanks for that, Grassel. Anyone else who wants to add their 2 cents?
I think Tommy has a few good points.
All right. Tommy says to complete the process, what to do with the outcome of the experiment is also important. Yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely right. Go ahead, Richard.
Yeah, I was gonna say completing that loop, showing the results to the review to the stakeholders, and actually having productive conversations on those results, and being able to co-create the next set of goals that you need to achieve based on these things or based on the learnings that we're getting, and giving them that confidence in the process should give us better outcomes in applying an experiment loop. And for me, I don't believe it's up to the stakeholder to dictate how the process should be, but rather be able to frame their asks, their wants in such a way that it is an experiment, that we are going to try this out. If it doesn't work, then we have a way to gracefully roll back, for example, that we can recover from it rather than allowing the product to suffer or fail because of the decisions that have been made. So helping them to feel safe to experiment might also be an approach that you could do. So that's where your capability of doing that, like feature toggles, A/B testing, canary testing, might be useful in order to validate that experiment quickly.
Makes sense. Right. Okay, thanks, Richard. So I think we could move on with our next question. So question number 2, if you already have an existing product, how would we put measures to it? I think let's go with
Okay.
Rodimir first this time.
I need more context. um, but maybe in general, for me, um, it's more on getting those like similar to what already Richard shared, like the NPS, right? So you can put them, uh, interview the users, and possibly if the technically capable, you can make them integrated in the system. So basically making it more frictionless feedback. Yeah, top of mind. That's what I'm thinking. How about you, Richard?
Yeah, so if the product is being sold by a sales team, that could also be a measure of, for example, the current value. Like how many units have we sold of the existing product? I think it's also probably a matter of understanding what measures are already available in the organization, and what matters, and how is the organization motivated in those numbers, so that you can see how it plays into how decisions are being made by your stakeholders on choosing whether it's function A or function B that you need to invest heavily upon in building the next thing. So and then having those conversations around key value areas, having a workshop to talk about, okay, if we want to know about the product's value today, what are the things that we need to be looking at? And then what is important for us to be measuring is something that typically the organization has no control over, because that's a better indicator, and that's a far more difficult indicator than anything else, because it's one thing to have downloads, for example, but usage might be a better indicator. Usage might be better, but transactions is actually a better indicator, because then you know you're making profit, you're making money. So it will depend on what the product is trying to do and what the organization is trying to achieve. This will definitely be a conversation on how you would be putting measures to it.
All right. Does is there a framework or that's available in EBM, or like does the EBM framework
Yeah.
itself provide you actual metrics to measure, diba?
So there are some books on metrics that are available online. There are some websites that do try to keep track of them. So if you've also already read, what is this? Do I have that book? I don't have that book. There are metrics that are being talked about, I think, in the product space, that if you are already in a related, if you have a product that's related to a lot of other things, that you'd be able to, what you call this, point at something and want it as well. So for example, daily active users might be something that you want for your product as well. And so, okay, how do we now measure that? How do we apply the telemetry in the product to tell us at any given time how many people are using it? I think Iman has a response that I think is quite appropriate. Iman, would you like to expand on it?
Maybe you could share, Iman, come up on stage.
So I was put in the spot. Anyways, yeah, first time joining. Just want to say pretty interesting discussion, and thank you speakers, right, for the very valuable and interesting presentations. Going back to the original question, right? How do we put measures to a product? Exactly what I said in chat. I think, it always goes back to that outcome. I mean, we tend to measure different things, right? But in the end, the goal of your product in most cases really is to improve an outcome, right, of a customer. So it could be ordering something online faster, right? Or let's say in a bank, you should create an app that will help them register an account faster, right? So I think you should always go back to that. Hey, what exactly are we trying to improve here? Right? What exactly are we delivering here? Right? And then go out there and measure that. Right? Because that's how you deliver value. So you don't get lost or don't fall into the trap of saying, hey, yeah, we have 1 million active users today, but no one's really doing anything to your app, right? Or we have, I don't know, 2,000 downloads every day, but no one's really opening it or something like that. In some cases, yes, right? More users could translate to more value generated, leading to more valuable measurements, but not all the time.
Right. Thanks, Iman.
Yep. Vendela also added, review the existing observability tools, and then if necessary, add more visualization charts, which can be useful in the decision making. Sounds like Vendela has some experience on this.
Yeah. Do you want to share, Vendela?
Yeah, because we're talking about measurements. So when we say measurements, our application needs to be observable. We need to make sure that it is observable, meaning we have applied the necessary logging in order to understand what our application I mean the state of the application. So some of the pillars of the observability are metrics, logging, tracing, and visualization tools. I think these are important. And what I'm saying is we just need to review if we have all the necessary metrics and tools needed to decide um, or to help us understand the current state of our product.
Thanks, Mandela. Yeah, I think you touched on the importance of having the data that we measure and the things that we measure understandable for stakeholders and those who will actually use that data right for decision making. Okay, anything else? Yep,
I have.
Grassel.
So I think the challenge here is, of course, data is everywhere, right? So like picking which area you measure is very critical. But there's, I would say, a pitfall that we may run into. Of course, for example, say I'm the CEO of like a startup, or wait, no, not a startup, of a large corporation. So for me, I value different like areas of the product that I'm interested to measure or to see the data. So like in every part of the organization, say the CEO values this part of the product, say the development team, this one, the sales and marketing, might not have an alignment on which like data set they value more or the most. So I don't have an answer, but it's something that you want to think about, because like you can like get data. I mean, data is just there. It's just a matter of like Vendela said, that it's a matter of observing it and collecting it and making sense out of it, and like having, okay, this is what data we have. This is okay. Maybe our product doesn't really make sense, etc., etc. And what are the next steps? But that could be different depending on who are you talking to, based on your organization, CEO, product manager, and whoever is involved in like doing creating the product. So I would say it's like a word of caution that we need to be mindful of that as well. So not getting that alignment first before measuring or getting or collecting data might be dangerous or might be more detrimental to the product. So, yep.
Yeah, and definitely. I think that echoes what Tommy said, right? Be careful with adding measurement as it may redirect the focus or goal of the existing product. Yeah. So as a product manager, you definitely have to know which ones are important and valuable to measure, right? All right. So yeah, I think we could have one last question and let's end on a lighter note, I think. So we'll go with question number 5. What kind of personal values and principles would align to a product manager? Maybe stated better, what personal values or principles should the product manager have? Yeah, it doesn't have to be maybe related to EBM, no, but in general as a product manager. Rodimir, maybe you can share some more of your learnings.
Okay, what personal values and principles? Um, I guess well, I maybe I'll connect this with I've said earlier. So basically, sometimes you're just a solo. It's not a problem, right? Uh, but when you're delivering a product, usually you need a team. So, and when you have your own personal values, whatever they are, um, you should have a team that have a similar values as well, so that you have that synergy, that you are aligned. That's, I guess that's more important rather than just uh, uh, a specific personal values or principles. So it's more of having a team synergy, and once you're aligned and you're under one common goal, you can deliver and be a high performing team.
Some answers.
Eventually, that would translate to a good product. Yeah.
Yeah. Thanks, Rodimir. How about you, Richard?
For me, I think a product manager having a principle of um, working together and seeing the humans in the people that they are working with, in the professionals that they're working with, from the QA guy who has to stay up late to do the testing, to the developer guy who hasn't seen his family because he's stuck, at work. Trying to finish the features, to the stakeholder who is losing sleep because they need to make money for the organization to grow. I think it's these human factors that the product manager needs to be able to see in order to humanize the way that they work. By creating goals that are not just ambitious but also at least sustainable, that they are able to stretch the team just a little bit and then see how well they can do, that it also respects the ingenuity of the individuals, that they're not there to be just hammers to the nails of requirements that we have, but actually creative people who can contribute to the insights that the products might be able to do, whether it is a capability that the product manager never thought of, or a simpler way to achieve the goal that we didn't anticipate or imagine, uh, or a better way for us to test quickly on something that will generate us more value later on. So I think the principle of seeing the humans in the professionals, I think, is quite an important deal for a product manager to have.
Yeah. All right. Thanks, Richard. I think both of you are saying leadership, right? And the big E word, which is empathy. So big designers speak. But yeah, thank you for those answers. I think that's all our time left for the panel discussion. Uh, just to remind everyone, we can continue the talks or the answering the questions in our FB group, Facebook group. So we invite you again to join the group and we'll continue answering questions over there. All right. So just before we close everything up, I'd like you all to share your insights on the chat about what you've learned in from our speakers today. Right. So I'll share mine. For me, I really like EBM, the evidence-based management. I think being a product designer and the workshopper, I do design sprints, so that's sort of related within that realm. I think design sprints really fits in the EBM framework. So that's really interesting for me. And leadership and empathy, I think those values for a product manager are really important, and not just for product managers, even just being humans, right? So yeah, we'd love to read a bit. Grassel said, "What I learned, product management is hard." All right. Cham says, use experimentation to bring value and also explain value. I think she's talking about explaining the value to stakeholders of experiments, right? Anything else? Yana, maybe you can share your key takeaway for tonight.
Me key takeaway. Actually, yeah, evidence-based management is kind of new for me, and also I was checking the link that Iman shared. That's pretty interesting to see the personal value related to personal value of product owners. So I love it. Thank you.
All right.
And I think the last one the charms are shared for the personality, the empathy
Yep.
effectively wear the different hats that PM needs to wear. Actually, I love that concept. So there are tons of idea about the personality of PM. So I really love to hear it. Thank you, everyone.
All right. Thanks, Anna. So Iman also says progress towards goals is done in a series of small steps, right? I think that fits really well in the EBM framework. Shaira also says there are different key metrics that I need to look into. So I think some of our audience members are in a reflective state. No? So thanks Richard and Rodimir for poking their brains into like having epiphanies. All right. So I hope everyone's had a great uh, time tonight and you've learned a lot from both our speakers. Remember, just a reminder again, you can continue asking questions in our FB group, which you can find the link to in the chat. So just one last thing before we close everything up. We'd like to ask you guys to help us improve our events by answering the feedback. So I'll sort of force you to answer the feedback. So please scan the QR code and uh we'll take some time, maybe around 2 minutes for you to fill out the questionnaire. So it's really quick. It would help us a lot to give more value to you. So EBM, as we've learned from Richard today, so we want to measure our performance and find out how we can improve the sessions for you. So yeah, I'll just time it for 2 minutes. Maybe I can play some music. Okay. Again. Yep. All right. I think that's 2 minutes. Thank you for filling out the questionnaire, and we hope you've given your insights on how we can improve. So we'll definitely take those to heart or take note of your suggestions and feedback so we could improve our next session. All right. And one last thing is we're having the next session already scheduled for next month, September. That's the last Tuesday. So we're still on the fence, or like we're still deciding on what the topic would be, but we're sure that we're gonna have the session again next month. So yeah, thank you again for joining our session. But before we close everything, I'd like to invite everyone to turn on their cameras and we'll have our picture taken because you need evidence that you went. Right? Okay.
Funny.
All right. So please turn on your cameras and show us your beautiful Tuesday smiles. All right. Faster. We don't want to miss you. All right, I'll take the picture in 3, 2, 1. Smile. All right. Thanks everyone again in behalf of our fellow organizers, Yana, Gracel, Olivia, Leona, Cham, and others who I may have forgotten. Thanks for attending the event. Thank you for our speakers for sharing their wonderful insights. And we hope to see you again next month for our next session. Hope you have a wonderful evening. All right. Thanks. Thanks. Good night.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.